You ready to tell your birth stories?
I guess.
It's been a long time coming. One extra woman tipped you over the edge by asking you to finally share these. So,
I know. Okay, here we go.
how did you prepare?
I didn't. The only thing I did do was I did look for a few photos that I could share since this will be video. That would be kind
Good.
of fun.
Oh, that will be fun. So, everyone can catch this episode on YouTube.
I don't think we're recording. Oh, we are.
We are.
We are. Oh, we've already started?
You started. I didn't tell you.
Oh, nope. Okay.
Yeah. So, everyone can catch this on YouTube or Patreon, either place. And
Cool.
yeah.
I have never formally told my birth stories. I've obviously dropped bits and pieces of things throughout the podcast. So I feel like my birth stories are very tied to my sort of purpose in life. Like I became a midwife because I really, really wanted to understand birth. Giving birth was what I wanted to do from the time I was a little kid for as long as I can remember. I was sort of obsessed with pregnancy as a child. Like I remember looking at my mother's photos of her pregnant with my little brother who's 4 years younger than me and just thinking like that is the most beautiful a woman ever is in her life. And I wanted to grow up and be a mom. That was pretty much all I aspired to be is a mom.
Well,
Um,
I love the photo of you that we have in the highlights on our Instagram page, Our Story. And it shows us in our young lives. And it shows you with your college roommate, and you convinced her to put a pillow under her shirt, and you're both sitting there looking pregnant, which is like, I think, the last thing
right?
most
Like,
American
who
college
does that
women
in
dream of
college?
being. But it's such a cute photo. You're beaming and you're grinning from ear to ear like you've never looked happier than when you had a pillow stuffed under your shirt. It's so
That's
sweet. So you
that
really
was
had a
real
calling.
for me. Yeah, that I
Yeah.
really did. I had a brief stint of wanting to be a secretary. I do remember that.
Wow.
I remember my dad used to take me to his office every Sunday. He would go in on Sundays and he would take me and I would sit at the secretary's desk and I would play with the typewriter and I would organize her sticky notes. And
I
I'm a
did the same
Virgo.
thing. I did the same thing for
So
my
it was
dad's
like
office.
I was obsessed with the organized office space. And I thought like, oh, what a fun job to be a secretary and just organize all day.
Yeah.
That didn't pan out.
My dad used to bring me to the office and do the same thing. And the really exciting part, other than sitting, his secretary's name was Anne Whalen. I remember her well. She was very lovely. And I used to love sitting at her desk if we were in on a weekend or something. But there was a supply room, and oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God, I could go in the
Oh yeah.
supply room and basically take like pads
Whatever
of
you want.
paper and stickies, and it was
Highlighters.
the most exciting thing ever. I still love office supplies. I don't know. Some people just love that stuff. All right, so
Yeah.
that was a brief little
That was a
fleeting.
brief little stint. Then I
Sure.
went back to basically I just want to be a mom. So I went to college. Oh, actually, I should say when my aunt was pregnant with her third child, I was a sophomore or junior in high school. And I begged her to please let me be at this birth. Please, can I come to the birth? I want to see a birth so badly. I wanted to go to the birth more than anything.
Hmm.
And she agreed to have me at the birth. And sadly, I was in a varsity soccer game at the time that her son was born, my cousin. And so I did not get to go to the birth. But I remember just like wanting to hear the story, wanting to see all the photos. My mom took amazing photos of it, and I was obsessed with it. And
Wow.
so, yeah, so it really has been in me. Um, Birth. I just was one of those kids who thought birth and mothering was everything, and I couldn't wait to do all of it. So I went to school for it. And I had no idea when I went to college that I was going to become a midwife. I took general studies as my major. I did all kinds of things from physics to Russian literature to astronomy to photography to I was all over the board. I was a general studies major, but I took a women's health class. I was always very interested in health. Anyway, I grew up in a very, health conscious family. So health from the perspective of your body can heal itself, your body knows what to do, your physiology is perfect. We don't need medicine unless it's urgent emergency type of medicine. So I knew that I did not want to be a doctor because I did not want to study pathology. I did not want to treat illness. So I took a women's health class in my junior year of college and I got the book Our Bodies Ourselves. Do you know that book? It was
I've
part of
heard
the
of it.
curriculum. It's an amazing book. Still like a Bible for women. And that's when I learned of the thing called midwifery or nurse midwifery. So I didn't even consider that. But then this class was taught by a nurse midwife. She was my professor. She's still a very prominent, well-known nurse midwife. And she like opened my mind to, oh my gosh, I could actually study birth and pregnancy and live it and be it and do it as my job and, do it for myself and know everything there is to possibly know about it and have a career in it. So after my junior year of college, I took a year off and I focused on figuring out how to become a nurse midwife. And then I went back, did my senior year, applied to graduate programs to become a nurse midwife, ended up at Yale School of Nursing, and started obviously studying midwifery. And I was fortunate enough to have a Yale's program actually had a home birth midwife on staff as one of the professors. And that's kind of unusual in nurse midwifery programs and a real blessing because I decided in my third year of graduate school that I was ready to have a baby. I really could not wait any longer. Lola was the one child that I really felt like I called in, like
Hmm.
from the universe. Like I sat down and I wrote in my journal and said, "It is time for you to come. I am
Hmm.
ready." Um, Paul had moved out to Connecticut with me. We had been together for years. We were getting married. Okay, it's kind of a funny story. Um, I told you at the start of this how I sat down and I wrote in my journal and I called Lola into my world. Like I wrote to the universe, I am ready to have a baby. I'm ready for the soul. Let's get going here. And I, you know, told Paul it's time to have a baby. I'm ready to do this. I mean, I was like working with pregnant women. Two women in my class had already had babies. I remember it was the breastfeeding class that I was in where I was like clawing at the table as as we're learning about breastfeeding, so eager to do this, couldn't wait. Everything in my body, everything in my physiology was saying now is the time. So Paul and I had been living together. We had lived in Wyoming together before moving out to Connecticut. And the day that I found out I was pregnant was the day that he had bought the engagement ring, just coincidentally.
No way.
Yes. Yes. So we were going away for the weekend and we are going up to Vermont. And he had purchased the ring. And I had gone to get a pregnancy test earlier that day and had not told him that I had gone to get a pregnancy test. And that night, we happened to have the honeymoon suite at this place where we were staying in Vermont. And I remember getting the phone call back from the lab because I didn't do like a home pregnancy test. I actually went to the clinic and I did a urine test. And I had to wait like 8 hours or something for them to call me back. And they called when I was in the hotel with him in the room and I started sobbing. I remember going into the bathroom and I took the phone call and they're like, "Yes, it's positive you're pregnant." And I was so incredibly overwhelmed with every emotion possible. I just started sobbing in the bathroom. And he's out there like laying on the bed waiting for me to come hang out with him. And here's me crying in the bathroom. And he's like, "What is going on?" He's about to propose to me. He's like, comes in the bathroom. He's like, "What is going on? Oh my God." And I'm like, "I'm pregnant." And, he, of course, is overjoyed and hugging me. And, "Why are you crying?" And, "What's wrong?" And I don't know. It was just so overwhelming. There were just so many emotions. I mean, I was so happy, but I was also really scared. I was like, I can't believe I actually did this. I really did this. Oh my God. Like, I'm in graduate school still. I haven't even graduated. I'm going to have to take time off. Like, all those thoughts of what it means to become a mother at 26 and still be in school and not married and getting married, but like it was a lot.
Yeah,
So,
it
but it
is.
was time. It was just time for me.
Think women don't, I think that they don't expect all the emotions they're going to feel. Most of them, especially when they're trying to get pregnant or they're planning to get pregnant, they know they'll be happy, but it's so many other emotions other than
So many.
happiness. It's just
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, like so much nervousness. It's
Yes.
so much realization that every part of your life is about to change. Your
Yes.
body's about to change. Your career is about to change. I mean,
And
when do we tell people this is huge? I can't even tell people yet, or most people. It's just there's no end to the
It
mixture of
and
emotions.
it's like there's no going back. It's a line that you cross and there's no going back.
That
You
is
are
true.
forever a mother from that moment sitting on that toilet when I got that phone call. I was like, I am no longer me, just me. I am now a mom, and that is a huge responsibility. And my whole life from this day forward is going to be completely different
It's that, and
in beautiful ways, but different.
absolutely. And it's the realization, I think for me and for most women, is those of us who were not studying midwifery in particular, is the feeling that, oh my gosh, the baby is in me and it's got to get out. There's so much of that. Like, this baby's got to get out.
Right. Like, yeah, I have to go through this whole process now. Like, I'm committed to this
Right,
process.
right.
And, on top of it was a little bit like I did have to explain to my educational program that I was having a baby, and I was the third one in my class to have a baby. And they were kind of like done with students having babies. Like, okay, enough already. It was cute to have one so everybody could see and we could have somebody to practice Leopold maneuvers on. And then two, they were like, okay, this is a little inconvenient. By the time I was pregnant, they were like, what is going on with this class? Like, you ladies, like, did we not teach birth control? Like,
Right, right, right.
where did that lesson go? So they weren't the school was not happy with me. Let's just put it like that.
Wow.
They were not thrilled. Okay, now we got to figure out another student how to get you through and whatever. It makes it a little inconvenient for them. They weren't not nice about it. And my home birth professor, Saraswati Vedam, she was my midwife and she was incredible and she was so happy and she was so supportive. And she was the one who told me, you are going to have a home birth. What do you think you're going to do? You think you're going to give birth at Yale New Haven Hospital with the school health plan? Because I was a student, so that's what I had. And with the student health plan, you have very, very limited options.
Mm.
I couldn't just go to any OB or midwifery practice that worked at Yale. I had to be with the student health plan.
Did you have to pay out of pocket for a home birth?
No, because by the time I gave birth, we were married, and then I was on Paul's health insurance.
Hmm.
So this is how my first birth came to be a home birth. I had a great pregnancy. No, nothing of note to really talk about in my pregnancy. I did not take a childbirth education course because I was in midwifery school and I was getting actually too much education on birth because I do remember now somebody was talking about it the other day about their first birth and being really afraid of shoulder dystocia. And it kind of gave me a flashback of remembering, oh God, yeah, I had that same fear with my first birth. I was really afraid of shoulder dystocia. Yeah, nothing of note of my pregnancy, just a healthy, normal, good pregnancy. I went into labor at 40 plus 3. I do remember getting a little antsy around 40 weeks, like, okay, I should be having this baby by now. Like, how long is it going to take? What's going on? And you get a little uncomfortable toward the end of pregnancy. So on 40 plus 2, I decided that if I took the day and left Connecticut and went into New York City, I would probably go into labor. My midwife was not thrilled about that decision, but she was like, okay, do what you have to do, but you know that you are 3 hours away from home because I was planning to give birth at my mother's house in Connecticut. She doesn't live in Connecticut now, but she lived in Connecticut at that time. And Paul and I were living in an apartment in New Haven. And my mom had a nice big bathtub at her house. And I just thought, well, I'll give birth there and I'll hunker down up there and I can use her tub. And it just felt better to me than giving birth in my apartment. But that was 3 hours from New York City.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty far into Connecticut, I assume.
yes, way up
Some of
north.
us are just an hour. Okay.
Yes, Killingworth. So, we went into the city. We met some friends. We went to Nobu Sushi. I had sushi for dinner.
Oh, that's a very, very special sushi place.
Very special sushi
I didn't
place.
realize they've
Yes.
been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
Gosh, you hear about them more lately, though. And Paul was with you? I always thought he wasn't with you that day in the city.
Yes, he was with
Oh,
me.
that's good. Okay.
Yes, we met some friends,
Okay.
and right when we got into the city, literally after we parked the car and started walking, we're in the East Village. I had to go to the bathroom, of course, because I'm late pregnancy and you got to go to the bathroom like every hour. So I went into this little pizza joint and I went into the bathroom and I went pee, and lo and behold, mucus plug came out in the toilet. And I was like, oh gosh, okay, well, I guess things are starting to happen now. And shortly after that, within minutes, I had my first contraction.
Mm. Wow.
And I knew, first time out, it's going to take a while. So I wasn't even at all concerned. We had dinner plans. That was at like 4 p.m. We had dinner plans at 8. So we walked around and we stayed for dinner. And at dinner, things really started to get a little bit more intense for me. And I was like, I'm really uncomfortable and having a really hard time sitting through dinner. I was having regular contractions every 3 or 4 minutes and,
Wow.
kind of having to focus on them and not being able to focus on eating and hanging out with friends. So I did decide to leave dinner. I thought, well, we have a 3 hour drive home. We better get going. It was pouring rain in November, and you cannot get a taxi when it's raining in the city. And we were a long ways from our car, so we needed a taxi. So it was like the classic movie scene where like Paul's out there in the rain waving, like, my wife's in labor. And yeah, it took a while to get a taxi, but we got a taxi. We got back to the car. It took 3.5 hours to get home.
Wow.
We got home at about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And I tried to go to bed, but it was too much. Like the contractions kept me out. So, but my midwife insisted that I stay in bed. She said, do not walk around your house. Do not take a shower. Do not do anything but lay in your bed. You need to rest. You are in early labor. You cannot stay up all night and try to make this happen. So I laid
Okay.
in bed and I remember every contraction being like, oh, I just like, please, will the sun come up? Please let the sun come up so I can get out of bed. And finally, the sun came up at whatever, 6 in the morning. I got out of bed. And then I was like, yeah, I can walk around the house and I can do things and try to make this happen. And I called her over to the house around 9 a.m. because she lived very close by. She was just one town over, which was very convenient. And she took one look at me and she's like, wow, I think like you're really in labor. Like you're in active labor. This is great. This is going really well. Should I check you? And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Let's do that. At that point in my career in life, I had zero thoughts about that a woman wouldn't have a cervical exam in labor. It was just ingrained in my brain. This is what we do.
Sure.
We check at the start, we figure things out, we check
Yeah.
every few hours for progress. I mean, this is what I was taught.
And there is an exciting component to it, of course. It verifies
Yeah.
that you're in labor. You kind of, I mean, I can see a woman, I understand the women who consent for
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
moments like this when you're first in labor, not during a long labor, but when you're first in labor, it's kind of cool. So what was how far along were you?
Yeah. So I remember her being all excited to check me, and then I could just see the expression on her face change
Oh,
from like, oh, this is gonna be great to like, oh, okay. She's like, well, you're just barely a fingertip open, like not even one
oh,
centimeter. And I was like, what? I have been doing this a
wow.
lot of hours now, 15 hours, 16 hours, and it's
Wow.
been really intense. And I feel, how could this be? Like, oh my God, this is gonna be hard.
Right.
So I did have that moment of being like, shit, like what's ahead? If it's been that hard all night, what is it really going to look like going forward? But I just felt like, you know what? Okay, let's go. We're going on a hike. Getting out of the house, we're going on a hike. So Paul and I went, and my mom lived at the bottom of a really steep driveway, very long. And so we walked, I just did these hill walks for an hour, 2 hours to try to get things going. And that definitely seemed to help. Everything after that, I mean, I think labor really did start to pick up at that point, and everything is really kind of a blur between there and transition. The next thing I remember, that was 10 a.m. By 8, 9 p.m. or so, something like that. I was in transition. I really don't remember what happened in between there, just laboring. There were a
Didn't
lot
you
of
have
people in the house.
tons, didn't you have tons of friends and
Yeah.
fellow student midwives show up?
Yes. Yes. There were a lot of people in the house. So my three or four friends from midwifery school were there to help to kind of be my doula, help, I don't know, learn student observation. They were getting credit for it. They were my friends. It was all just part of it. Um, and my sisters were there, and my mother was there. My mother's boyfriend was there. My father was there. My father's girlfriend was there in the house.
Okay.
My mother and sisters and the midwife, the friends of mine who were in midwifery school were all in the room
Okay.
at the time of birth. Um, but anyway, I remember transition being extremely difficult. I very much can relate to that feeling that women have where they want to flee their body. They think they cannot do this anymore. This is the end. Like, I cannot go another step. And the vomiting and just complete overwhelm. But my midwife reminded me that this is the point where you know you're making good progress. This is good progress. So I got through transition and finally it was time to push. And I was very, very relieved about that. That was around 10 p.m. And she got me on a birth stool. And I didn't have a super long pushing phase. It was only about 45 minutes. Lola was born at 10:45 in a squatting position on a birthing stool. And I do remember at that moment that her head was out, thinking, oh my God, what if the shoulders get stuck? I'm going to push with all my life on the next contraction so that her shoulders don't get stuck, which is not really the right way to do it. So I did, and she flew out. There was no chance her shoulders were getting stuck. She came out like a rocket at the shoulders, and I did have a secondary tear, probably because of that. But I just needed it to be over. You know, I was at that point so incredibly exhausted. After the birth, I do remember also having that feeling of like, you know, being out of my body, and it took me a minute to even like kind of come around to being able to hold her, look at her. Went over to the bed, and you know, she was skin to skin with me. Um, I did have a fair bit of bleeding, and I needed some stitches, so all of that little postpartum stuff took some time, and early postpartum stuff. And I think I've shared this on the podcast before. Like, I was really out of it after the birth. I remember making the midwife stay, asking her to please stay the night and sleep over because I was very worried that when I fell asleep that I might not wake up. I was that exhausted. So it had been 36 hours. And I probably, you know, I tried to drink and eat throughout, but I was vomiting a lot. So I was probably pretty dehydrated.
What do you think about the fact that you felt like you might just die? I remember you've shared that before. How can you explain that? Were you just depleted, or it just you sound so vulnerable and scared. Was it simply depletion?
I think I had lost a lot of blood
Right,
and I was really weak.
right.
And I had never felt like that before. I had never felt so depleted and exhausted. And it just felt like my body's just going to like give out. I never looked back on my birth as anything short of what I expected it to be. It was
Oh,
just long and hard.
okay.
I have a photo.
So it didn't change your expectations, really. You didn't have many expectations, I guess.
I mean, I think I expected a first time birth to be long and difficult.
All
Here's a
right.
little, can you
Go
see that?
closer, okay?
Okay, so here in the photo, you can see there's Paul
Oh,
and
yeah.
Heather and Shannon, two of my very dear friends still who are midwives,
Yeah.
and somebody there listening to the heartbeat. That's in my mom's room. And this, I'm covering it up so we don't get flagged for pornography. There's the squatting position, Paul holding me, and the midwife here, and the big old flashlight, the big mag light right there so they could see what was going on.
That's a great photo.
In the shower on the birth
Hmm.
ball. I think that's about all I have.
So
Oh,
many positions. Now I'm in the shower. Now I'm in my mom's bedroom. Now I'm so many stages of this labor. Oh.
there she is just after birth. This was probably the next day.
So you're in a
So,
tub here, breastfeeding.
yes, yep, in the tub breastfeeding, which many mothers are told that they shouldn't get in the tub after birth or the baby shouldn't get wet. Not true. Totally fine.
Okay.
Okay. So, on to Ruby's birth. 2.5 years later, Ruby was born. And she was another home birth, of course. And this time I was working now as a home birth midwife. So I had been going to births as a pregnant mother. In fact, somebody wrote into Instagram the other day about I don't know, I had shared a photo or something. I can't remember now how it came up, but she was like, "Oh my gosh, you were at my birth and you were pregnant and I was pregnant." And I just have such this beautiful, vivid memory of us two pregnant women just like sitting together, working through contractions. And it was like so beautiful and uniting because I was right on the verge of having a baby and there she was having a baby. And yeah, it was kind of special to be a midwife, assisting other women through birth when you are about to give birth yourself or you're pregnant yourself.
Absolutely.
Her birth was very different. So there is hope for those women who have very long first labors, like I did. Her birth was very quick. I definitely did a little bit more focus in her pregnancy on trying to, um, I think, focus more on like I did more prenatal yoga and more sort of affirmation. And I read some books that were, different than what I was studying in midwifery school. Midwifery school was a lot of medical. And I did have some of those fears in my first birth, and I didn't want to bring those into my second birth. So I read Birthing from Within, and I read Gentle Birth, Gentle Mothering by Sarah Buckley, which I think is one of the most amazing books out there. And I do think I focused more in that pregnancy on trying to have a more calm, peaceful. I mean, not that Lola's birth wasn't calm and peaceful, but just less fear. There were those subconscious thoughts because of being in midwifery school and because I was surrounded by hospital birth at that time. So, um, I did find this morning a little Ruby's birth book, and I actually did write her birth story, which is great because it was really fun for me to read. So Ruby's birth story, June 10th, Sunday. Both Ruby and Lola were born on Sundays. She was born at 12:31 a.m. Um, the day before you were born, Mama, Nana, and Grandma and Lola and I all took a long hot walk along the ocean. So my mother and my mother-in-law were at Ruby's birth, which I actually did not remember. I rode the seesaw and the swings. Saturday was a bit of a rainy day, and I spent much of the day nesting and taking care of last minute errands, including a trip to the toy store for a princess castle for your big sister. I had a few strong contractions during the day, but I didn't suspect anything until the evening when the occasional contraction felt quite different. We prepared a fanciful steak and lobster dinner. And by the way, Ruby still has lobster dinner every year on her birthday. And we finished around 9 p.m. I had one big contraction that made me think, oh, this is for real, but I didn't want to get overly excited. Grandma suspected the birth would happen soon. The kitchen was cleaned, and I put Lola to bed. Lola knew you were coming soon. She insisted that Mama put her to bed, and she touched my belly, saying, I see little feet. Lola convinced me, and so I called Vicky, the midwife, around 9:30 just to warn her before bed. I took a long soak in a warm tub and had just two contractions. I thought that I would try to go to bed, but soon realized there was no way. Contractions were coming every 3 to 5 minutes. I called Auntie Heather and Auntie Ashley. Auntie Ashley is my sister, and Heather is the midwife who was at my first birth. I checked my cervix around 10 p.m. I have no recollection of doing that. I checked my cervix and it was 3 centimeters or so. Daddy pumped up the birth tub and we began to fill it with water, changed the bed sheets, um, got the herbs going and warm blankets. Very soon, I was contracting every 3 minutes or less. I called Vicky, the midwife, to come. I was desperate to get into the water. Finally, I could, and things only went faster. Contractions came every 2 minutes, and they were hugely intense but quick. I hung from the birth sling and moaned, open. I remember that. I did do a lot of that practice prenatally, and that was really helpful. And the other big helpful thing with Ruby's birth was that I hung a sling from the ceiling,
Yep. And
and I
you you
used that.
yeah, leveraged a little weight against it and then you could like bear it helps to bear down, doesn't
It
it?
helps to bear down, and I think it helps to stretch the body. And remember how in our episode with Body Ready method,
Right.
how she talked about opening the rib cage and how
Yes.
the opening the rib cage opens the cervix,
Yeah.
and that hanging does the same thing. It just stretches. So I did that in Norse birth as well, and that is something like I feel like I could never give birth without that. That was so helpful. So, okay. I hung from the birth sling and moaned open with every contraction. Vicky arrived and listened to your heart, and you were perfect. Moments later, I felt pressure in my bottom. Two contractions more, and I was spontaneously pushing. I heard a pop. My water broke, and then I felt burning inside. I reached down and I felt your head only an inch inside me. I pushed again and I felt it opening me. A few more gentle pushes, and Mama received your head into my hands. I will never forget that feeling of guiding your head, your hard, round head, into my hand, and the amazing relief when the tension released and your head was free. Your shoulders came out easily, although it was awkward to reach them from the front. Out you came with your mouth wide open. I brought you slowly to the surface, and you cried as your face came out of the water. No one else touched you. The room was quiet, and you and Mama looked at each other as I held you close to my left breast. I still assumed that you were a boy, and it was several minutes before I reached down in between your legs in search of testicles, but they were not there. I was shocked. I looked at your hands and feet, relieved to see that you had all your fingers and toes. I was surprised by your nose, as it was quite turned up at birth. I remember my mom commenting on that.
What did she say? That Ruby
It's
looked
like,
funny?
yeah, yes. Her nose was like completely turned up.
Oh,
Like she must have been squished up against
uh-huh.
the side of my uterus with her nose up like I mean, it was all I was like, oh no, like this is, not ideal. Um, anyway, it flattened out normally. Um, I just gazed at you, wondering who you were that I did not know as a girl for 9 months. I was so convinced she was a boy. I was
Oh.
absolutely sure I was having a boy. So it was very shocking when she was a girl.
Hmm.
We stayed in the warm water and Mama pulled out your placenta. The tub turned red, but I didn't want to let you go. I didn't want to let you go yet. You found the breast and you latched on yourself. Eventually, we climbed into bed together, laying skin to skin. Finally, I let Daddy hold you as Mummy ate. I forgot to mention the vomiting, which felt so releasing as the contractions built. Lola held you too, and finally we settled into bed. I couldn't sleep much. I still had too much birth energy in my blood. You slept well, and we were all up at 8 a.m. to begin your first day in the new world. You were born on your due date, and Mommy wrote to you in the morning telling you it was time to come. You were born on Sunday, just like your sister.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I forgot about this, and I was really happy to find it this
So
morning.
sweet.
So North's birth is probably the one that I have talked the most about on the podcast because he was the unintentional, unassisted home birth in the water. There isn't a whole lot to say about his birth because it was just really quick and I was, on my own. Once again, I had a very healthy, easy pregnancy. I really didn't do any prenatal care with him. It was my third baby at that point, and I did like an initial prenatal visit. And maybe by the time I was 36 weeks, I went every couple weeks or something. Um, he came right around 40 weeks, and I was watching a movie with Paul, a terrible movie, Black Swan.
Oh yeah. That's
Ugh,
a psychological thriller
yeah,
kind of movie. Yeah, not
yeah.
great vibes at all.
No, it put
No,
me into labor, I guess,
I
because it
guess.
was disturbing. I don't know.
Well, that usually
Um,
would tighten the cervix and prevent labor. So I think he came despite that you were watching
maybe.
like that. But you definitely should have been watching something that would make you feel in love again
Right,
or make you
oxytocin, getting the
laugh.
oxytocin going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not it.
No.
So I'm trying to think if there was anything significant leading up to his birth. Um, I think the main thing with North was that I was really dedicated in that pregnancy to take the proper postpartum care of myself. I did not do that with Lola. I did not do that with Ruby. I was, baking pies on day 4 postpartum. It was Thanksgiving when Lola was born, and I was baking pies on day 4, which was crazy. And then with Ruby, we had to actually go to Canada to go to camp on her 11th day of life. So I got in the car and drove 15 hours with her to Canada, breastfeeding her every hour and a half to 2 hours along the way. It was a long journey. And then I was at the summer camp. So the nice thing there was that I didn't have to do any cooking or cleaning, but it was also I was surrounded by tons of people and kids, and it was hard to rest. And I certainly didn't take the 2 weeks in bed. So I was very dedicated to doing that with North. And
Did you think he would be a boy?
yes, I was absolutely sure about North. Although I was absolutely sure about Ruby too. Although I do think Ruby has some of that male energy. So I must have been must have been picking up on that boy energy. Um, with North, so I had had two girls and I really wanted a boy. And I do remember saying that I'm going to have a third and I'm going to have a boy. And I know exactly where and when he was conceived, which was in Canada. And Paul and I were taking a hike. And I came down from the hike and onto the trail, and there was this hawk that flew down and like landed in the tree right in front of us and was just staring at us. And I remember staring at the hawk and the hawk staring at me. And I turned to Paul and I was like, we're having a boy.
So I
This
like how
baby will be a boy.
you yada yada'd how you conceived. You're like, we went for a hike, yada
Yes.
yada yada, came down the trail, and a
He,
hawk stared at us.
yes.
So that sounds like a fun conception.
Yes. He's
And
a woods boy, a woods baby.
very cool. Very nice. And now
And
everyone who goes to your camp is listening and going, what
I
the heck
know.
are they
Yeah.
doing in the woods? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So his birth was very quick. From the time I had my first contraction, was within three contractions. I was calling the midwife. It was late at night, and I felt bad. I remember feeling bad, like, oh, I should wait. I shouldn't call her. She's sleeping. I don't want to
Hmm.
disturb her.
Hmm.
But a few more contractions later, and I was like, you really should get on your way. And barely got the tub full. I got it maybe up to my midsection, but it still felt incredibly relieving to be in the tub. I had the same setup with the Maya wrap hanging from the ceiling, so I could use that traction, which was so helpful. And I wanted North's birth to be on film, so I remember telling Paul, like, you really should go get the video camera because I think the baby is coming. Midwife was not there yet; she was still about 30 minutes away. And he left the room to go get the video camera and wake up my mom because she was just down the hall. And as they both came into the room, Paul flipped on the camera and I was receiving North. So there was this period of a few minutes where I was alone in the room and I knew he was coming. And I just remember thinking to myself, you're on your own. Like, whatever happens, you're in charge. Like, nobody is here to do anything. Like, you just have to stay calm and you know what to do. You know how to catch a baby. Just let it happen. And I just did. And he came out very easily and he was wrapped around his cord quite a bit. So I had to unwrap him a little bit. And he wasn't breathing at first, but I could tell that his tone and color were fine. But a lot of babies don't breathe right when they're born, unlike Ruby, who came out screaming. He was quiet and not breathing.
How do you know he wasn't breathing?
I don't think he had taken his first breath because usually when babies take a first breath, there's a little bit of a sound with it.
Oh,
So he was just still,
okay.
but his color was okay and his tone was okay. So I knew he was okay. And I remember thinking I might have to help him a little because he was birthed so fast. Babies who come really fast are a little bit stunned sometimes, and it takes them a little longer to take their first breath. Um, and who knows what was going on at the time of birth? I mean, his cord could have been compressed a little bit. He never had a single heart rate check, so I have no idea what was going on in labor. But I knew that he was okay also because I looked down at him and he reached his hand up and he touched my face, or like right here, like my neck. He just reached his hand up and touched me, and that's when I knew, okay, you're fine. You're fine. But I still did. I did go down to his mouth and I blew a little bit into his mouth just to help him out. And then he did open his mouth. He didn't really cry. He just kind of made a little sound, but I knew that was enough. And he was so calm. He never cried. And I just sat there in the tub with him and I waited for the midwife to come. And my placenta probably had separated, but I didn't really want to deal with that on my own. So I just waited for the midwife to get there, who got there about 25, 30 minutes after he was born. And she helped me get the placenta out. And then we climbed in. So the placenta was born in the water, just like with Ruby. And then we climbed into the bed, and the sun was coming up, and I had breakfast, and he was with me and breastfeeding, and it was just beautiful, perfect. And I did not leave my bedroom for 12 more days.
And
which
you've
was
described that as the
amazing.
happiest days of your whole life.
Yes. I had beautiful sunlight in my room and the windows open and it was spring. And I just remember every morning, like the sun just coming in the room every day. And he and I just stayed there, just in love with each other, breastfeeding, sleeping, breastfeeding. I let my mom and Paul completely take care of me and the other kids, and the kids would come in. Lola and Ruby would come in and get in bed and snuggle with me for a little bit of time and then leave and go do their thing. And it was bliss. It was blissful. I love that time. So those are my births.
What did each of your three births teach you?
Oh, wow. Um,
Because you were studying professionally, and still when we experience it, it's a complete awakening. It's something you can't possibly get no matter how many textbooks you read. So, yeah, I was just wondering.
I think the biggest thing that I learned through all of my births really is about the importance of the postpartum time, and Norse birth really taught me that. Like the uninterrupted skin to skin time. Like if there is one thing that I could tell the world to make the world a better place, it would be to stop separating moms and babies at the time of birth. Like those minutes and hours after birth with your baby are so important. And it makes birth go better, and it makes your body adjust to post-birth better. It protects you, it protects your baby. It starts all the cascade of hormones for your baby and yourself and your breastfeeding off on the right track. And I just think it's transformative. Like in the big picture of life, it is profoundly important. And we are constantly disturbing that and constantly interrupting that. And we don't know what the real consequences of that are. So stop. I learned that with North, like just stay together, stay in bed, enjoy that time. It is precious.